What's up, guys? It's your boy Cielshock from CTUSA Mini 4-wheel drive racing squad, and I'm a teacher here in Noobworx. And before I start my video, I want to say shout out to Print Nation and Game Buzz. If you guys are interested with my band royalty stuff, Print Nation and Game Buzz, I have the link at the description below. And also, if you guys are interested with 90s themed clothing, streetwear, Yo clothing, I have the link at the description below. And before I go to my video, I want to say sorry and I apologize about my voice. I've been sick lately. I've been trying to get better, but it's taking a while, so I can't wait to do this video because a couple of weeks ago, I made a poll, or I posted a question in Facebook. What video should I do next? And people were talking about chargers, kits, and stuff like that, but most people asked about batteries. Alright, so today we're going to talk about everything you need to know about batteries when you're racing Mini 4-wheel drive. Alright, so batteries are the power source of our Mini 4-wheel drive, obviously. Our Mini 4-wheel drives will not run without a battery. And in tamiya regulation here in States, we're allowed to use three kinds of batteries. It's the nickel metallic hydride, nickel cadmium batteries, and alkaline batteries. So each battery is different. They have different characteristics. They have different pros and cons, strengths and weaknesses, like any other things about Mini 4-wheel drive. All right, and in some races, only alkaline batteries are allowed, like in some races in box stock, but it also depends on your house rules. So it depends which place or what racing center or what, if they're gonna let you if they're gonna let you use alkaline batteries or nickel metallic hydride batteries or rechargeable batteries in general. So those are the three batteries that are allowed here in States, and I'm pretty sure anywhere you go, you are only allowed to use those three. It's 1.2 to 1.5 range is the voltage that is allowed from the battery, but mostly rechargeable batteries are 1.2 anyway. To consider about batteries during racing Mini 4-wheel drive. One thing you need to consider, and this is very important, is the weight. Alright? So each battery have different kind of weight, whether it's alkaline, nickel metallic hydride, or nickel cadmium batteries. They all have different amount of weight on that battery. So weight is one big factor because in your overall setup, batteries adds up weight. So let's say I have one tune class build over here, and it's run by a torque tune motor. And as much as possible, I want this car to be light as possible. So you will think what kind of battery I should use, or you should use when you're racing. I would probably use a lighter battery, but also it depends what kind of category or what kind of setup do you have. If you want a lighter setup, you want a heavier setup, or you want just like an average weight setup. So the battery will also help you determine how much weight you want to add for your dampers or whatever, and also how much weight of batteries you want to use for that style of racing or that kind of racetrack or what kind of category you're racing in. So weight is very important because each battery have different kind of weight. It doesn't matter what kind of brand or what kind of battery it is, they have different amount of weights with them. Number two is voltage. Voltage is very important because the three legal batteries that you can use in Mini 4-wheel drive, which is alkaline, nickel metallic hydride, and nickel cadmium batteries, have different kind of weight. And I mean, different kind of voltage, not weight. So voltage will come in play because nickel cadmium batteries, you can push the voltage even though it's 1.2, and even the nickel metallic hydride batteries, you can delta peak charge and have that high peak battery, especially after breaking in your battery. You will have more than the 1.2 volts that it says on the actual packaging of the NiCad batteries or nickel metallic hydride batteries compared to the alkaline batteries. But also, I'm not saying that alkaline batteries are bad because alkaline batteries are 1.5 to begin with. So voltage is also one factor that you need to consider because some cars, you might fly off on a 1.5 volt. Some car only needs just 1.3 volts or 1.48 volts. So it really depends how you will charge your battery, or what kind of battery you're going to use when you're racing. Again, it's up to you how you will set up your car, or how will you tame your car during racing. I would suggest to invest like smart chargers. Like I have a Lacrosse BC700 over here, and I have a Scar RC MC3000 over here, but we will go through that on details on my next videos. But voltage, you can push the voltage, and you can also lessen the voltage by discharging the voltage and then delta peaking the batteries, or pushing the batteries higher, more than the 1.2 volts from straight out from the box. And if you don't want to do that, you can also use alkaline batteries. So voltage, you have to kind of like find the yay medium part of the battery, so where your car would be suitable for that track layout. All right, so that's one thing that you need to consider. Third will be the capacity. So voltage and capacity sometimes come hand in hand. So capacity, there are like these three batteries. These are 3 nickel metallic hydride batteries. This Neo Chap is 950, and this Fujitsu is 950. This Nikon battery is 700, and this is 1900 capacity battery. So when you say your capacity is more, the battery gets heavier, obviously, and if your capacity is lesser, the battery gets lighter. So the lighter the batteries, the lower the capacity. The heavier the battery, the higher the capacity of the battery. Also, the voltage, the lesser the capacity of the battery is it most likely to burst out more power, especially with nickel metallic nickel cadmium batteries. And we'll talk about it later too as we move on. But capacity is the capacity of battery, especially when you're racing a big races with a lot of racers, and you have to store a lot of battery over there, because some racing centers doesn't let you change batteries. So also that's one big factor. And also, if a track layout is so huge and it's so big that your battery will drain more, especially if you're using power hungry motor, it will suck up all your battery, and you're most likely you'll have a huge voltage drop, or your battery will be drained. So if you have alkaline, obviously you can't charge it. If you have a lower capacity battery, that will most likely be done quick if you have a bigger track. So it really depends on the track situation. And if you have a heavier car, obviously you need more power to push it, so your battery will most likely drain more, so you need a higher capacity battery. But if your car is light, and let's say you have a shorter track, you can also use a lighter battery with small capacity, and it will not drain that much. Same with the alkaline battery. So it really depends. It really depends on what kind of category, or what kind of setup, or what kind of car do you have. All right. One factor that will probably work hand in hand, and you're most likely probably not going to think that it's a factor, or that one thing that you need to consider, is the motor of choice. All right. So when you're racing Mini 4-wheel drive, there are various of motors over there. There are the tuned motors, you have the Hyperdash motors, and so on and so forth. All right. So I have a Hyperdash 2 right here with my Pro Stock setup, and I have a tuned class car with a tuned motor. Tuned motor is a less power hungry motor compared to the dash motors, which is the Hyperdash motor. So that will come in play when which kind of battery you gotta pick. So obviously, if you have a Hyperdash and you use an alkaline battery, if that drains, that's done. And if you use a lower capacity battery, that would be a disadvantage when you have more heats and when the track layout is bigger. But if it's shorter and the lesser heats, you can get away with that. And also, it's one factor that the battery is lighter, so that will help your car to be less weight and less drag and less load when the car is running. But it's also a disadvantage because maybe it's going to be too light. So it's really up to you. It works hand in hand. And also, if you're running tuned car and if you're using a light battery, the car will be more lighter, and that will be less load, and the car will most likely have less load, and it will be running faster and more acceleration. But in longer tracks, maybe you can use a heavier battery or a bigger capacity battery, So it really depends what kind of motor you're going to use. So that's one thing that you need to consider when racing about batteries, if you already decided what kind of motor you're going to use. All right, so those are the 4 things that I think that's very important: the weight, the voltage, the capacity, and the motor of choice. And now let's go talk about each individual battery that I have over here. All right, so let's talk about the alkaline batteries first. All right, so I have an alkaline battery over here. This is the Duracell Optimum. Again, the brand don't matter, as I've said. The brand don't matter. It just happened that I have the Duracell Optimum. All right, so we have the factors that we talked about earlier. So let's see how much it weighs. So this is an alkaline battery as I weigh it. Alkaline batteries are not rechargeable, so you can't charge this. So once it's done, it's done. And then the weight of each cell. This is 23. And let's see if it's really actually accurate. We'll have to weigh this other one. All right, this is 23 grams. So this alkaline battery specifically, I'm pretty sure there are other alkaline batteries over there will be lighter or heavier than this alkaline battery. But this specific alkaline battery, the Duracell Optimum, have 23 grams. For my opinion, it's not too light. It's not too heavy either. So that's one good advantage when you're racing, is you can add more weight to your Modify or any tune class car by using this battery. And also, this battery provides 1.5 volts to begin with. And alkaline batteries, the voltage drop is not very high compared to the rechargeable batteries, because rechargeable batteries have higher resistance, and that's why there's a bigger or higher voltage drop compared to alkaline batteries. But again, the capacities of these batteries, if it passed out or it drains, you can't charge these anymore, so it's basically disposable. But one advantage of an alkaline battery is already have a high voltage output to begin with, and you can use this, for my opinion, is you can run it on tune class or box stock cars. I mean, it only take few voltage to push that tune motor, and you don't have to, this battery will most likely not drain that much if you're using it on a tuned motor. So this is the alkaline battery Duracell Optimum. That's one advantage that I think that you can use this, is its weight, because it, if you want to add weight, and also it's all 1.5 volt to begin with. All right, so that's about alkaline batteries. The next battery we're going to talk about is this battery over here that I'm charging. This is a nickel cadmium battery. All right, so this is an old school battery, Panasonic Canica. So if you can see, it is a Sanyo made in Japan. Again, the brand don't matter, but we'll talk more about this battery. So nickel cadmium batteries are different compared to nickel metallic hydride batteries. This one is a 700 milliampere per hour battery, so it's most likely lighter. Most nickel cadmium batteries have lower capacities compared to the nickel metallic hydride rechargeable batteries. They're more lighter, I think. So if you check the weight, let's check the weight. Let's see how consistent this is. This is 21 grams. So these are 21 grams. Let's see. This one is 21 too. This one is 20. So it's basically probably 20 or 20 point something grams. That's why it's playing on that gram range. See, this one's a little bit heavy compared to the other one. So it's probably 20, 21 grams. So it's lighter compared to the alkaline battery. And also, nickel cadmium batteries push more. So why does it push more? Because of the delta peak. We're going to talk about the delta peak later, but the delta peak of these batteries goes really, really high. So people use this for high-speed racing, which myself, I use it for high-speed racing. And also, it's very light, so I use it sometimes in box stock racing and tune class. Again, it depends on my setup in any track situation. But I usually use this on high-speed racing because it does have that burst. Like, even though it's 1.2 from the box, I can push the battery higher to a higher voltage, maybe 1.5, 1.57. It really depends, but it does have a high delta peak, which is the burst of the battery, the highest voltage it can push. But also, one disadvantage is this is one of the batteries with the highest voltage drop. So from a very, very high delta peak voltage, or MV, this also have a highest voltage drop. So that's one disadvantage of the nickel cadmium batteries. And one disadvantage of the nickel cadmium batteries is these rechargeable batteries have a memory effect. Okay, memory effect is the affected cell that repeatedly or occasionally charge partially. So let's say this battery I already used for one heat, right? So I use this and then I charge this battery. I charge it. So after I charge it, the battery get used to that every time I do that. So let's say I use one heat, maybe 30% or only 20% of the battery was used and I already charge it again. The battery will have that memory effect that once you drain 20 or 30% of the battery will have that memory that, oh, I'm already done. I'm already low battery and you need to charge me. That is one disadvantage of the nickel cadmium batteries. So how will we going to avoid that? So one thing that we need to avoid that is frequently discharging and charging the battery. So after use, you have to discharge this battery, drain this battery, and then charge it all over again. So the battery will remember that I have to be drained before I have to charge again. Because if you don't drain this battery and discharge this battery after use, it will create that memory effect and then it will get used to it and you will be wondering, whoa, why my battery is so weak? After 2 heats or after 1 heat or maybe 1 lap, the voltage drop already, and that's just how nickel cadmium batteries works. So be mindful of picking what battery. So that's nickel cadmium batteries. It's light battery, does have a memory effect, highest delta peak voltage. All right, so remember that. All right, so let's go to the next battery that I have is the Tamiya Neo Champ battery, which is pretty much the same with the Fujitsu pink battery that I have over here. They're almost the same because there's the rumor that the Neo Champs are just repackaged Fujitsu pink batteries, which just makes sense because it's both made in Japan. It's 190 milliamperes, and they're pretty much the same on every aspect besides the packaging. All right, so this is our nickel metallic hydride battery, 950 milliampere capacity. So let's check the weight, because that's one big factor. All right, that's 18 grams, very light. As you can see, this is very light. So if you love weight reduction, you can use this battery. See, this is even 17 grams. So it's probably 17, 18 grams. Let's see the Fujitsu's. So the Fujitsu pink is 17. See, it's 17, probably 17, 18 grams too. So they're basically really the same. So these are the same batteries, basically, with just 2 different branding. And the difference between the nickel metallic hydride and the cadmium batteries, nickel cadmium batteries, are the nickel metallic hydrides doesn't have a memory effect. So basically, if you use it and then you didn't drain the whole battery, you can recharge it right away. Okay? So that's one thing. This is very light too, this 950. And the lighter it gets, the lower the capacity of the battery. So you can see this is 950 and this is very light we're going to compare it to the nickel metallic hydride that we have, the end loop ones. But this too is light as hell, and it also pushes 1.2 volts, and you can also have that delta peak by pushing the batteries up. I'm gonna show you a little bit of it. So as you can see, I have my Fujitsu's over here, so you can see they're already full, right? They're already full. I'm just using this Lacrosse BC700, so I'm gonna push the current to 700. So I'm basically pushing it to 700. If I press the current over here, and once it blinks, it will be charging now. And then you can see the battery's full already. It's already have 1.54 volts. It probably can go up more, and that would be the delta peak. So I'm just showing you guys that once the battery's full charge, and in future see it rises up to 1.55. So once it stops and it keeps on charging, and when it stops, that's your peak. That's your delta peak, and that's the highest voltage that battery can push before you drop, and then it will start dropping. That would be the negative delta peak, that's the voltage drop or power loss from the battery self-discharging. So you basically have to use it right away after you top it up. Some people top it up, but that will be a different topic as we move on about delta peak. But I just want to show you what is delta peak is when you have your peak and you're topping up your battery. So now it's both 1.55, probably can go higher. But nickel metallic hydride is more stable compared to nickel cadmium batteries. Why? I will show you how the delta peak and the drop of the battery works. Alright, so I have a diagram that I made. So this is like a small diagram. So this is nickel metallic hydride. This is nickel cadmium. That's the delta peak, right? So the nickel metallic hydride, when you charge it, it goes like this and it peaks up. When it picks up like this, it will drop. That's the voltage drop. Volt drop. So that's the volt drop. It only volt drops a little bit and it becomes stable. So smart chargers will let you show that, especially MC3000. You'll see how the voltage drops goes and how it peaks. It will show you on the diagram on a specific charger. But the nickel cadmium batteries, it goes like this. It peaks really quick and it drops a lot like this. So when you use it, it drops like that. But if it's continued charging, it goes like this. But it drops like a lot. So that's the volt drop. That's the volt drop for the nickel cadmium batteries. So that's one comparison about nickel metallic hydrides and nickel cadmium batteries. And also, as I've said earlier, nickel metallic hydride batteries doesn't have memory effects. So after using it, even though it's only 30%, 20%, 10%, you can pop it on the charger right away and push it. All right, so now this one's going up to 156. Once it drops, that would be tickled already. That's called the tickle charging, and that will be a different topic, which I will tackle again later. But this is how the delta peak goes. So nickel metallic hydride batteries, this one is lighter, obviously, because it's 950. And yeah, those Cielshock and Fujitsu pretty much the same. So that's the comparison that I will tell you about NiCads and nickel metallic hydrides. Alright, so I have another nickel metallic hydride battery, which is the Eneloops. I don't have the Eneloop Pros, which is bigger capacity, but this is 1900 milliamperes Panasonic Eneloops, and we're gonna weigh it, obviously, like earlier. And we're gonna go for grams. 25 grams. Oh, it's heavier. It's actually heavier than our alkaline batteries. So 24, 26, see, 25, 26, 26 grams. So this is quite heavy. compared to the alkaline. Actually, this is the heaviest battery set that I have. Not saying this is a disadvantage, but this battery, you can use it if you have a stronger motor. Let's say you're using a hyper dash motor, using a power dash motor, sprint dash motor, and even some racing centers let you allowed to use ultra dash and jet dash, but those are not official Tamiya races. The one that allows jet dash and ultra dash. But these batteries have a very high capacity. So if you're racing and your racing rules are you can't change batteries, this will be good and it will come hand in hand. It is very effective because you will have that capacity, and that capacity will be stored in the battery, and then there will be lesser voltage drop because it's envelopes and it's not NiCads. These are nickel metallic hydrides, so this will work for you. And if you want a heavier setup, and let's say your car is too light or your car is heavy and you want it to be more heavy, this can be an added weight too, because it's 26 grams. It's 25 to 26 grams. So those are one advantages and disadvantages of using envelope batteries. And I think this can top up to, see, there you go. So sorry for getting distracted, but as you can see, it drops to 155. Earlier, it's 156. So that means the delta peak of this set of batteries is 1.56. And now it's dropping because the battery is starting to heat up, and that's the nickel charging. And again, I will go through that later. But these are envelope batteries, higher capacity batteries, good when you're racing to races that you're not allowed to change batteries. And also, again, it acts up as weights. And their envelopes, they last longer. And 1,900 mAh, that means more cycles. All right? So, again, this nickel metallic hydride batteries, you don't have to drain it if you want to charge it. But you can also cycle it or refresh it sometimes. All right, so those are the three types of batteries. It's the alkaline battery, the nickel cadmium batteries, and the nickel metallic hydride batteries. All right, so those are the batteries that are Tamiya legal. So let's talk about maintenance. All right, and some things that you need to know when using a battery straight out from the box. All right, now let's talk about battery break-in. So let's say you buy your brand new sets of batteries. You pick nickel metallic hydride battery, which is the envelopes. All right, you have to break in these batteries. So in order to break in batteries, obviously you need a smart charger. It's either the BC700 Lacrosse that I have over here, or a Sky RC fancy one like this MC3000. But you can also do it manually. All right, so what is breaking in the battery? So, breaking in the battery is the term formatting the charging that describes the initial charge and discharge, forming the process that usually fully activates the chemical engine that balances the cell. All right, so it balances the cell. So it's basically charging and discharging the battery. So it balances all the chemicals inside the battery so it have its full potential. So what does it do? It does balance the battery so it avoids the fluctuation of the voltage. That's one thing. And also, it needs repetitive charge and discharging. That's how we do it. Because if you don't do that, you will not maximize the procedure and you will not have a fully rated capacity. So some batteries, if you charge it, you will not have the 1900 capacity, or you will have a very low capacity compared to what's written over there because you didn't break in your battery, because your battery needs a repeatedly charge-discharge process until the battery is stable. It stabilizes its charge and become a fully capacitized battery, and it's not like a what you call this, like a fluke battery, the one that's like fluctuating all the time or have that voltage drop all the time. So you can do that on nickel metallic hydride batteries, and you can also do it on NiCad batteries. You don't have to do that on alkaline batteries, because alkaline batteries are built different way. So how do we do that? So I'll show you how it happens. How does it do in a Sky RC charger? So this is a very advanced charger compared to other chargers. So the initial voltage over there is 1.41 program. So I'm gonna use my Bluetooth. I have my Sky RC app over here. That I'm gonna use. Gonna wait a little bit to connect. It's connecting right now. There you go. So what would I do is I edit the program. Obviously it's gonna be an anti-loop battery, so there's an option with an anti-loop battery over there. So the capacity would be 1900, and charge. You can change the charge current or the cut volt over there. But what you're gonna do is mode. You can do the break-in process. So break-in process, you can do a charge-discharge process like over here, or you can do a discharge-charge process. So that's what we'll do. It will cycle the battery, and it will charge, discharge, and charge. So it will be broken in, or you can do discharge, charge, or discharge. It doesn't matter how you want to do it. So that's what basically you want to do, and then you program it with the 4 batteries, and then save it, and then I will just break it in, and then start. And then the battery will start breaking. See? So it will basically charge it up first, and then once it's full, it's gonna drain it, and then it's gonna charge it to itself, and that's how you break in it. And it's programmed until the battery is stabilized. All right. So that battery is already broken in because I used that before. I just want to show you. So that's how it goes with the batteries. But if happened that you don't have and you can't afford this kind of charger, because this charger is quite expensive, I'm just lucky that I got a chance to bought it, this MC3000 Sky RC, you can use it, you can do it manually. All right, this is a cheaper version one. This is a Lacrosse BC700. So let's say you want to break in this battery. What you're gonna do is manually charge and discharge the battery. So you go discharge it, and then it will go fully charged. And then when it's fully charged, you can go to mode and switch it up to discharge. All right. So that is manually stabilizing the battery. The only disadvantage of that is the charger will not tell you if it's already stabilized or not, because on this kind of chargers, it will automatically stop charging and discharging once the stabilizing or breaking in of the battery is done. All right. But that's for a regular battery. But for a battery charger like this, they have the discharge refresh feature, which is basically refreshing the battery or like breaking in the battery. So one cool thing about this Lacrosse BC700, even though it's so cheap, you can do the discharge refresh battery. And let's say you have old batteries or new batteries, you can do that, and it will keep discharging it and charging the battery at the same time. So it will refresh, or it will be broken in, and it will not stop until that voltage stabilize and the delta peak stabilize on those 2 cells. And also these are individual battery chargers. All right. So that's one thing. That's what you call the break-in process. So you have to break in your battery, so you will have that full potential capacity of your battery, and also you will have that stable current or stable voltage. And that's very important when racing. All right. All right. So next thing you need to know is the refreshing of the batteries, obviously. So refreshing batteries is like cycle. But refreshing batteries is like draining your batteries manually. You can do that too. And also you can charge your battery manually. But refreshing it is one good thing too. Because if, let's say, you have old batteries that you haven't used before, and you can use that feature too. It's the same thing that I did with the refresh over here. And there's also a refresh feature of this Sky RCMC 3000. It's basically refreshing your battery, draining it, and then put it back if your batteries are already old or you haven't used it in a while. One disadvantage of refreshing the battery, or they call cycling the battery, because when you buy a rechargeable battery, obviously nothing is permanent. Even rechargeble's battery dies. So every time you cycle or you drain the battery by discharging it, you lose one cycle. So let's say the packaging says 2100 cycles, you will lose one cycle of the battery, and as the cycle is lessened, and that's how the battery gets older, and eventually it will die. So that's one thing that you got to remember about refreshing or recycling the batteries. All right, so those are two things that we tackle. All right, so now let's talk about fast charging. All right, so fast charging is very convenient because you can have a rapid charge battery, especially if you forgot to charge it overnight and then you have to raise, let's say this battery, I have 1.4 volts. Obviously, it's not full charge, so we're gonna change the current to 700. So this one's 200, this 700. So that's the rapid charging. So one pros with rapid charging is it can boost up your delta peak. Let's say your charger is fully charged, and let's say it's fully charged in 1.46. If you do a rapid or fast charging by putting higher amps using any kind of batteries, as long as you can use any kind of batteries and then using any kind of charger, as long as it's a rapid charger, it can push up to that delta peak if your trickle charge is off, and it can force your battery to push, obviously, higher than the full charge voltage that you have, like what I'm doing right now. So you can see it's 1.45. It's one from 1.40 earlier, so now it's 1.45. Then this is like a slow, this too is charging slowly, this charging faster. So that's one advantage of it. You can push the battery to a higher voltage delta peak, but there's disadvantages about it too. So one kicker, some fast chargers in the market have complete first step, two-step processing result in the battery, allowed to be really fully charged, but instead it will be about 80%. So when you're doing a rapid charger or a fast charger, it will only be charged 80%, even though it says it's full charge and it's 100% charged. Getting an additional 20% as long as it will take longer than that. So basically, so what I said earlier, right? So I'll show you. I have to draw again. Excuse my drawing. So let's say there's two glasses of water, glasses over there, and then you pour water in it, right? You slowly pour water in it. Nothing will be wasted. That's the slow charging. All right? That's the slow. And then when you pour faster, the water splats all over the place. And then let's say it's not full at the end of it because the water goes everywhere. So it's basically pouring all the water, and then once it looks full at first, and then when it settles down, it's not full because the water is everywhere. So that's basically what the battery does. So in slow charging, there are minimal, or there's actually zero battery wasted, energy wasted, or electricity wasted. In fast charging, it spills out. It's like, here you go, here's the power, and then it spills out. That's why it heats up. So when the battery heats up, that's the voltage that comes out, because the battery have to find a way to release that energy, to release that electricity or power outside the battery, or the battery is gonna explode or it's gonna leak. It does have to release the voltage, the scattered voltage. It's called the scattered voltage outside the battery. That's why it heats up, and that's the way of the battery for taking out the excess energy, because we're basically overcharging it when we do the fast charging. All right, so when we do the fast charging, it overheats. The the charger detects it and it says full because it's hot. Though every charger will say, oh, it's hot, it's dangerous, because it does have the sensors. Like this one is very high advanced sensor. You can see there's like a sensor over there, and then the charger will say, oh, it's hot, sensor, you have to turn it off. Unless you turned it off. Unless you turned off the trickle charge. Alright, if you turn off the trickle charge. But this charger specifically, some chargers, it let us heat up until it stops, and then it slows down it drops down its voltage, so the batteries won't explode or it doesn't charge up anymore. So that's one big advantage. So the battery, if you do a fast charger right away, it will not be 100% full. Remember that. It will not be 100% full of the capacity right away. And there's a lot of scattered voltage that will be pouring out and wasted energy if you do fast charging. So those are the two different ways of charging: slow charging and fast charging. So which is better? There's no such thing as better or best, as I've said all the time. So those are two different kinds. One is convenient, not convenient. One is good for batteries, which prolong the battery life. So you can see now the voltage is already higher than this one because this is a slow battery. So it doesn't really push that much for your peak. And then the other one will have that delta peak, which is the maximum outburst of the voltage of the battery energy coming out from the battery going to your motor and your Mini 4-wheel drives. So that's one big difference from slow charging or faster charging of the battery. So how will you compensate that, and how will you solve that problem in Mini 4-wheel drive? Because if you do slow charging, you will not have that delta peak, so you will be slower compared to other cars. If you want to have a faster torque or a faster power outburst for your motor, if you do slow charging. And if you do fast charging, your battery most likely lose power faster compared to other batteries, because you were probably not using the 100% capacity of the battery. Even though you're pushing it to 1.4 to 54 volts, that voltage will drop really quick. Alright, this is what I do, and this is my personal way of charging it. So what I do is, let's say I have a brand new battery. I will break in first the battery. Obviously, like we tackled earlier, you have to maximize the capacity of the battery and gets that full potential of the battery. Alright, and then after that, if there's a race, 2 or a day before the race, I will charge my battery to the lowest amp as much as I can. So some batteries can do 0.1, 0.2, 0.5 or whatever. That will take probably 3 days, 4 days, but me, I'll do 200 or 0.2, 0.20, I mean. So that will take probably a day or a half a day. So I would do that continuously. Let's say I charge it the day before, right? Or the 2 days before. And then when I get home, it will probably be full charge. So my batteries are full charge. I will snap it back again and then put the same amount of amperes, like 20. So slow charging. So when you're slowly charging it, it will not build up any crystal. It will not be hot. It will be good. It will be good for the life of the battery, because it will not damage the battery. Because it will not generate heat. It will not generate stress while you're slow charging it. And then charging it slowly will make sure that you're filling up every inch of the cell with electrons. Alright? You're pushing every bit of it. So you will maximize that capacity. So once that's full, here comes race day, right? So why I'm constantly charging it with a very, very slow charge. So on the race day, I have full sets of batteries. Probably some voltage drops because of the time travel. Let's say I'm an hour away, or 20 minutes away, or 30 minutes away from the racing center. It depends. So I will have that voltage drop. And then before my heat, I will top it up with fast charging. Why? So when I go fast charging, I go high amperes, right? Let's say go 700 or a grand, which is pretty much 1 amp. So let's say I go 1 amp or 2 amps to the tops, but that's very dangerous. My batteries will go hot. Some chargers have blowers or whatever just to stop it from overheating. But as I talk, this battery is getting hot now because it's 1.5 volts. I will have that delta peak, and I will not waste any voltage because I have the 100% fully charged battery by slow charging my battery. So I'm basically full charge my battery by slow charging it, and then peaking the delta peak, or pushing or topping up the battery during the race before I drop my car, because my racing center allows me to change batteries every heat. So that's basically what I do. Will it bite me in the ass in the end, in time, that my batteries will be broken? Yes, it will damage my battery still in prolonged period of doing that, but not as much as people that are always doing fast charging, not even doing the slow charging at home. So I will not say that is the safest way, but it lessens the damage of the battery, because some people is just rapidly charging their batteries. And also, I will have the full potential of my batteries because it was slow charge at home. Alright, so in the end, it's still up to you if you want to do slow charging and if you want to do fast charging. Some people just do slow charging because they think not topping up their batteries or delta peaking their batteries is enough during the race. Especially pro stock racers and stock racers, they don't top up that much because they only need 1.48 volts or 1.47, not even, maybe 1.38 volts. So you don't need to push or delta peak your batteries. So your battery's life is longer and it will not have that drastic voltage drop through time. Because the more stress you give to the battery, you will have that drastic voltage drop as the battery gets old, and that will build up more resistance. As your batteries gets old and accumulates all the crystals because of fast charging and overheating, your resistance will go higher. Your cycles go lower, like as the life of the battery goes, as it dies, and then your resistance go higher, but the outburst of the battery, that it will go up. So your delta peak will go higher and higher and higher, and then the drop is just drastically drops just like crazy. So hopefully you learned something. That's one thing that that I'm very, very particular about charging and discharging the batteries and all that maintenance stuff. And cadmium batteries, they are very, very susceptible to that, like the voltage drop, especially the cadmium batteries if you do that. But they drop anyway, so I just fast charge the cadmium. So you gotta know what kind of batteries too. Like nickel cadmium batteries, I just rapid charge that because the voltage drop is very fast and it's just a low capacity. It just full charge right away. So that's one more thing. Like you gotta know what kind of battery, but in general, in nickel cadmium rechargeable batteries, that's what would I do. Slow charge at home and then quick charge or rapid charge during the races. Alright, so let's talk about the factors that affects the battery to discharge itself. So this is probably the last topic that I'm gonna talk about. This video is getting really long, but I just don't wanna forget about that topic. So the life of the battery depends on the cycle, obviously. The more cycle you do, and then that's the life of the battery. So you'll know the cycle is done when you maximize all the cycles of the batteries. So that's basically draining the battery and then charging again. And then if the resistance is really high, if your battery's resistance is really high, that means the batteries will be basically die in few weeks or days, because it will basically charge and then discharge really quick. And the factors that do that is obviously racing in a prolonged period of time, rapid charging it all the time, and temperature. Temperature is very, very important. So when it's really, really hot, the batteries gets really hot and it just self-discharge. It does self-discharge and it ruins your battery on a hot temperature. Sometimes it will not delta peak that high when the temperature is really, really hot. And that's why some people have blowers on their chargers. Like this one have a built-in blower. This is the MC3000 version 2, have 2 blowers. That's why some people have blowers. And when you're transferring batteries, let's say delivering the batteries, when you drop it, let's say cruise shipping, there will be cracks inside the dry cell, that paste inside, that ruins the whole battery, because you know, when you're using the car, so some people will be like, oh, my battery is still okay, but I don't know what's going on, it's still new, because you know, dropping it gets track inside a battery. You know, our cars flew off the track, you know, it jumps too high, so that affects the battery performance too. So that's just one thing that I want to add about batteries maintenance. Make sure you put it in a cool, dry place. You know, refresh your batteries, not all the time, cycle it, and learn some charging methods. Alright? So yeah, so this is Cielshock from CTUSA Mini 4-Wheel Drive Racing Squad, and I'm a teacher here in Noobworx. And hopefully you learn something. We learn from you, learn from us. Always race humble. Peace.